Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to The Mayor and I with me, Lindsay Khan, and Nick Buckley, MBE. Nice to see you, Nick. It's our weekly roundup of various things that have enraged me, and I ask Nick questions about, and he generally
Tries to
calms me down and has the answers as well, which I don't. So I'll turn from the camera to you, Nick. There's a lot happening in the news at the moment.
Since Trump was the assassination attempt, loads of stuff happening.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the amount of stuff happening, and it's worse for me because, as you know, I don't watch the news anymore. Sometimes I watch GB News, so I have to try and find the information through various sources without being brainwashed, basically. But there's a lot happening, and we've got quite a lot to talk about. But I want to start, if that's okay, with something completely different, and when other people do this to me, I just find it very, very irritating, which is when they tell me when they've gone to a concert. And there's a big thing, and I know you've probably seen it with some of the people you know, of middle-aged men and women going to concerts that young people should actually be going to, and then coming back and telling you how fantastic it was, paying. And I think my belief here is that when we were young, I think concerts were not that expensive. Young people went to them. You could go to when I was at Manchester University, the Students' Union used to have all sorts of really good bands playing. You pay a fiver and go and see a really good band. But then it's been taken over by the middle class and middle-aged, and they tend to dominate it. We talked about Taylor Swift the other day, didn't we? You know what happening. Anyway, so
Do you know why concerts are so expensive?
why?
I remember reading it's because of streaming music. So artists don't make the money they used to now. Through record sales, CD sales, big artists now make their money live performances. That's why tickets are so expensive.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but they could have charged that 20 years ago, couldn't they? David Bowie could have charged 500 quid a ticket 20 years ago. He was so popular, but they didn't because they wanted people to come and see them I mean, I understand what you're saying, but you're right, it's probably all about money or whatever. But anyway, it just enrages me. So when we've been to dinner parties and things like that or out, and somebody said, I went to see, and I just turn around and walk off generally when that happens. Because it's a kind of middle-class illness, basically, trying to pretend you're young and enjoy. Anyway, so I'm going to bore you with my story about going to a concert. So this weekend I went to see Richard Ashcroft in Wigan. Now, Richard Ashcroft, do you know which?
I don't know who he is.
There was a very famous band in the 80s and 90s called The Verve.
Oh, The Verve, yeah.
Yeah, so you've heard of The Verve.
That's what the videos where they're walking down the street and he's
Correct.
bumping into everybody.
Yeah, that's Bittersweet Symphony.
Yeah.
I think that's Bittersweet. Or that might be The Drugs Don't Work. That's one of their very famous songs. Anyway, Richard Ashcroft is the lead singer and also the writer of the songs, basically. But he's from Wigan originally, and this was called his homecoming tour. So one of the kids said, "Oh, Dad, Richard," because the kids loved him when they were young. So they said, "Oh, Richard Ashcroft." So I said, "All right, well, I'll go." But it was one of those where you have to stand up as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I said, "Oh," and I was trying to get out of it, but anyway, so we all went on famille basically, and Anna's from Wigan as well, so there's a Wigan connection. So I thought, here we're going to go. There's going to be Palestinian flags, blue hair, all this usual crap. Because I went to a concert in London to see Joji. Have you heard of Joji?
No.
Yeah, so I think listeners, just for this here, this isn't me quoting bands that nobody. It's just Nick doesn't know any musical bands. We're clearly getting.
I've never been that interested in music.
Anyway, so as soon as we arrived there, something was different. There weren't, the people coming to the concert were slightly older, not middle-aged arses, but older people, predominantly white. So I was one of the few brown faces there. No purple hair, no pink hair, no Palestinian flags, no nothing. It was just people going to a concert. A lot of them were drunk, and I thought, hang on a minute, this takes me back to the 1980s. This is like what concerts were in the 1980s. And we went in and it started chucking it down. It was raining really heavy. And then the rain stopped and Richard Ashcroft, they always have the bands at the beginning.
Yeah.
So a couple of bands came at the beginning. And we were standing in the rain and I thought, oh, this is awful.
It was like a rugby stadium.
Yeah, it was called the Robin Park, it's called. Robin Park in Wigan. And then Richard Ashcroft came on, and he was absolutely fantastic.
Right.
All he did was sing songs, short break between each song where he said nothing, and then he'd sing his next song, and he went through all his hits. The Drugs Don't Work, the ones you've never heard of. But our listeners, please support me here and say you've heard it. All his songs, finished with Bittersweet Symphony, which is an anthem of his, basically, a phenomenal record. And I would say it's the best concert I've ever been to in my life. It was just absolutely fantastic. No messages, no nothing. It was just absolutely brilliant. And you and I have talked about this before, about artists and they're telling us how to. So afterwards, and I knew a bit about Richard Ashcroft, but I looked him up basically, and then I saw an interview with him, and I'd like to, if you would permit me, to read what he said in this. So he said, so many fucking artists, man. If they can't write a song, or they can't sing, or they can't play, they end up being like semi-political leaders, or believe they have to have a million causes to hide the fact they can't do the very thing that we want them to do. Ultimately, if somebody's paying hard-earned money, which was me, to see me play live, they don't want a rant about what's happening on the other side of the world. They don't want to know which way they should vote. We don't give a crap. The paradigm's been broken, smashed by music and an artist. That's where music is power. Go back to what you were supposed to do. Go back and entertain the world. And I thought, fantastic, at last, basically. Somebody who's saying, an artist who's saying what he should be saying. He's there to entertain and nothing else.
He's got a very good point, and he mentions it, and that's the point. Artists should entertain. And the reason why some artists don't and talk about politics is because they know they're substandard. They've got to add something else to make them interesting, which is politics.
Yeah.
Same with sports stars.
Yeah.
Does Messi or Ronaldo or any top flight footballers, do they get involved in any political stuff? No. It's always the B players.
Yes.
Who then want rainbow laces or they're doing something for Free Palestine or whatever. They've got to add something else to them to make them interesting.
Yeah.
The
Rashford.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, as Rashford's quality declined, that's when he got more involved in that, food things or food for kids or whatever. I can't remember what it was.
And even at the time when he did that, I thought that was very silly of him, because there'll be a time where it's uncovered that he's not paying his fair share of taxes, and the press will go after him harder than anybody else.
Yeah.
Because your taxes would have paid for food for kids, and you don't even pay your fair. I'm not saying he doesn't pay his fair share tax, but if he ever doesn't, they'll come after him even harder. I thought it was a very silly thing for a 20-year-old to do.
Yeah. I think the Richard Ashcroft thing, who you never heard of.
I've heard of the Verve.
You've heard of the Verve. Yeah. What we saw there, and I said to the kids afterwards, we actually just saw a proper rock star. He was a proper rock star. He was really good on stage, phenomenal on stage. Great. He's a great musician, phenomenal music. You need to maybe listen to some of his music. And all he's about is his music. He's not about anything else. He doesn't want to be about anything else. And he'd come back to Wigan, and he said he hadn't been, I don't know why, he said he hadn't been able to play in Wigan for 26 years. He'd come back to Wigan after 25 years to play to his people, the people where he came from, basically. And I just thought it was beautiful. It was really emotional, fantastic, fantastic evening. And I said to the kids afterwards, and Anna, I said, that's the best concert I've ever been to. Because that's all it was. It was just a concert. It was music with a rock star playing before a big crowd. And they were just there for the music. The fans were there for it. They weren't there. They didn't have any rainbow flags or any messages there at all. It was just, they were there for the music as well. I thought it was a really powerful evening.
It sounds like he's got nothing else to prove.
Yeah. No, I don't think he has. I mean, he is phenomenally successful.
Yeah.
And, Oasis, they were big fans of his before they started.
Were they,
and Coldplay, Chris Martin is a big fan of his as well. They've
So other people have heard of him.
Yeah,
not
yeah.
just you.
That's it. Yeah,
Right.
despite he's actually quite famous. So that has got nothing to do with all the news we've been looking at. But I just thought, after we've been talking about people like George Clooney and
celebs,
all these celebrities pushing all this crap, I just thought that was that just kind of really it restored my faith in humanity briefly for a moment there. On Saturday, I thought I'd just tell you about that.
Thank you.
Now, on to more serious things. So I've got this. This is a lot shorter question for you. Is Biden dead?
Is it a weekend at Bernie's? I've read a bit on this and watched other people's opinions on this. So what I was saying to you a few months ago was I could not see them allowing him to debate Trump. And they did, which surprised me. And that opened everybody's eyes. Opened whose eyes? Everybody in know knew what was going on. I can see the general public in America, some of them not knowing because they don't watch politics, but they must have known. So, and because he did so badly, he's now been forced out. So he's not. I don't think he's resigned. I don't think he's made this decision himself. I think he's been forced. It's a type of a coup d'etat. I think whoever holds the purse strings or the big everything comes down to money. The big donors have probably said to him, no, we're not funding this campaign. Obama has been on the scene quite a bit recently, so I think he's had a big say in this because he's still got all his faculties and he's still widely respected across the world. Even though I don't think he was a great president, he's wild.
He wasn't a great president.
No,
He didn't really do anything.
No, exactly. But he's respected, and from what I hear, he's a clever man. So it looks like he's been forced to resign. Now, the fact he's resigned of not to be president but running again, you can tell it was rushed by the mistakes they made. So he announced it on Twitter. Something like that would be announced in the Oval Office. It'd be a press conference.
Yeah.
It was a tweet on Twitter. Did he even know somebody was typing that in Twitter? Was he told after the fact? It's all been done now, Joe. You agreed to that.
Do you remember? You agreed, yeah.
Did I? Well, keep his wife out of the room while we say this.
Yeah.
Because his wife wanted him to run again. He didn't endorse his VP to be his replacement. That came hours later. Oh, and I endorse.
Oh, was that not in the letter?
That wasn't in his original tweet, no. So someone went, oh, we made a mistake there, we've got to endorse her. It was all rushed. And I think it was rushed because I think the money men were going to pull out. And that's how you win elections, with lots and lots of money. So we now know who is going to be running. It's going to be Kamala Harris, who is just a diversity hire. She's running now because she has a black vagina. That's her own vagina.
Regina or
Yeah.
vagina?
Vagina.
What's
I have trouble with my R's.
Oh, right.
So,
Is that right?
so
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, so because she's got a black vagina.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Because because that's what Biden said. Biden said, when I'm elected, my vice president will be a black woman.
Yes, he did.
So
But now she's saying her vice president will be a white man. Have you heard that?
she does, because they're going
Which
to.
is weird.
They're going to try to get at least one person with some sort of competency in the White House. It's a mess. So is he dead? No, I don't think he's dead. If he was dead, they'd announce it. That'd be great PR for the Democrats. He would get a sympathy vote. Kamala Harris would get a sympathy vote if he was dead. So he's not dead.
But he's not been seen.
He's not. I think
He's not been seen since last week.
Yeah. That's why
At all.
That's why I said last time. That's why they said he had COVID. I don't think he's got COVID. I think they've kept him out of the public eye for this coup d'etat, basically. And I'm not sure if we'll see him again for months. We might see him just before the election, him going out saying vote Kamala, if he can. You know, we don't know how bad he is. But they won't want him anywhere near the press, anywhere near the public, because no matter what he says, he's a danger. And if he says, I never resigned, if someone asks him that question and he goes, no, I didn't resign.
Oh, yeah. So you think the reason they keep him away is if somebody said to him, why have you resigned, Joe? He'd be like, what?
Have I resigned?
Yeah.
And can you imagine the trouble that would cause? So
it's deteriorated so much now that but the whole thing about this for me is it's just all weird, isn't it? Because the debate between him and Trump, that was the moment that hopefully the entire population of America realised they'd been lied to for months, if not years. about his mental condition. The Democrats, I'm sure the senior Democrats knew anyway. I'm sure Obama knew about his mental.
Well, we knew. We just saw that on video, so we knew.
No, but the thing is, when we were in Italy, in somewhere, Anna got into an argument with an American woman, a Democrat, and and Anna was saying to the lady, Biden's senile. And she says, no, he's not. So that most Democrats believed he wasn't senile. I mean, there was actually a screaming match that they ended up having. My wife. But she was insistent he was fine. I think the majority of the Democrat voters...
Yeah, that's faith. That's belief.
Yeah. But then surely when they see this, they must think, hang on a minute. Has somebody been lying to us about this? All this time? So first of all, you had the debate. Then you had the assassination attempt on Trump. Then suddenly Biden disappears. Then next minute he resigns, but not, as you say, not in the Oval Office, not on a press conference, on Twitter, and then he's not being seen. Surely the American people are sitting there thinking, what the hell is going on with our country and our democracy? What is happening here? They must surely by now be saying that.
The Democrat voters, the hardcore Democrat voters, don't see anything because he's better than Trump. It's Trump derangement syndrome. I'm not even going to admit he's senile. I'm going to convince myself he's not senile. I'm going to convince myself that this is a Trump smear that he's senile and idiots are falling for it. He's not. So they convince themselves. A bit like you can do with religion.
Yeah.
It's about faith, isn't it? Faith. Yeah. The average voter, they've seen it all. Do they think they've been lied to? I don't think they do, because that we're lied to all the time. All politicians lie to us. Everyone's trying to manipulate us all the time, and always have been. For thousands of years, we've always been manipulated. I think they've finally seen it now and are making judgments on that. I don't think they're analysing if they should have believed it a year ago or 5 years ago. But you're right. It's like a domino effect. Everything seems to be falling down. The assassination attempts, him. I mean, I still don't understand why they put him up to that debate. And afterwards, why they thought they won, why they thought he did okay. And it was like, have you
I don't think anybody said he thought that.
Yeah.
You mean the main, the
some of his media,
yeah.
Some of his supporters think he did well.
Yeah.
His wife was on camera saying he did well, he answered all the questions, he was fantastic. And
no, she said, well done, Joe, you answered all like he was 5.
Yeah, and he smiled like he was 5. He went,
yeah.
And you know what was going on. I thought, it's elder abuse, it's terrible. And like I've said many times before, what they've done to him would have damaged him even more. It would have accelerated his dementia. What's wrong with him? All this pressure, this stress.
Because I think, and you said it last week when I said when he found out about the Trump shooting, he came on and gave a really good speech and said, I'm going to call Donald and all. And I said he seemed very lucid, and you said it was early in the morning. I think when they were practicing on the debate with him, it was early in the morning. By the end of the day, when you're a little old man with senile dementia, you lose all lucidity at that point. So I think that's why I think they misjudged it really badly.
They would have known that. We've seen.
You would have thought so. Yeah.
We've seen enough videotape. I think the people around him just want power. They only can keep power if their man wins. If they change their man, or that man or that woman's going to bring a whole new team in. So even if my side win, if it's not with my man, I don't win. So the people around him are chained to him. So it's like he has to run for us to stay in power.
Yeah.
Because when, if the governor of California,
Gavin Newsom,
if he comes in and we have him standing, he'll bring his own team in. We're not made redundant.
He will.
So I think it was all self-serving politicians and trying to keep power. They knew it was bad. And for them, it's like, it's our one shot.
Yeah.
We've got to give it a go, because if he loses, we're out. If we change him, we're out. But what on the 5% chance he wins? We've got to keep him in the game. It was just self-serving politicians and the elite.
So is he dead then?
No.
So you heard it here first, folks. Biden's not dead.
Again, if he was dead, it'd be in the press. As in, that could be the best election bonus for the Democrats.
Yeah. But Kamala Harris is not the nominated person.
Not yet. Not yet.
No, because Obama has kept quiet about this. He's not endorsing it. So I think there's somebody else in the wings that they're going to try and wheel in, basically. And people have said Michelle Obama, but apparently...
There is, but again, which contender wants to step in now? There's 90 days to the election. It looks like Trump's going to win. If you're that Gavin Newsom, who's a potential president at some point, potentially, God forbid him ever if he wins, but he's a potential.
He's dreadful though, isn't he?
He is, but...
He looks like a president, that's his strength. Yeah.
Why would he want to step in now when it looks like the game's over? All that's going to happen, he gets a beating, it ruins his reputation. They may never let him stand again.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, because if you lose this time, are they going to let you stand again?
Exactly. Your reputation is you've lost once already.
Yeah.
You've got all this baggage now. So do people like that are going, I need to keep my powder dry. I'm going to stand in 4 years from now.
So maybe then Kamala Harris is a sacrificial lamb, then?
She is, but there'll also be a B class of governors and senators who are going, well,
We'll take the pot.
I'm competent. I'm not mental like her. I'm never going to get a shot at the big ticket, but I might get a shot now because I'm better than her.
Yeah.
So someone competent may come out of the woodwork who's better than her.
So you think there might be a kind of a B level of contestants, people fighting? Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I just find it very strange that he's not been seen in public and he's announced his resignation like this. Even with COVID, you go with a plastic screen and announce.
Yeah, but I don't think he's got COVID. I think COVID was the first step in removing him from the public eye while they sorted out how they're going to get him to resign out the race. I think COVID was step one.
It's quite funny. You're right, you might be right. They may have just printed it and then told him later, don't you remember you agreed to this, Joe? Because he won't remember, will he?
What can he do then?
Yes.
What can he do?
Okay, so we'll move back across the pond, as they say. And do you remember last week, or was it the week before, we were chatting and we'd been accused, or I'd been accused, I think we were both accused of being middle-class racists.
No.
And I said to you...
Middle-class fat racist.
Middle-class fat racist. Yes, maybe one, two, or possibly one of those three things is correct, but I won't say which. And I said, I'd just like to assure the listeners that I'm not middle-class because I grew up in Harehills in Leeds at the time. And I don't know if you've heard of Harehills before.
Not until you mentioned it, yeah.
Then bizarrely, literally 3 or 4 days later, Harehills suddenly was on everybody's lips because there were massive riots around the police. Something happened to do with a Romanian family, I believe.
A Romanian family, I think they've got 5 kids. Parents went out, left the kids alone, and a 7-month-old baby fell out of a window and fractured its skull.
Oh, really? Is that the story?
Yep, social services came round with the police and social services took into care the 5 children. Police were there for backup.
Now that is bizarre about the kid falling and fracturing the skull, because I remember in Harehills, and the street I was born in was called Brookfield Avenue, and you can look it up, folks, Brookfield Avenue. And and at that point, it was a cobble street, so this must have been 67 or something like that, and we were looking after everybody in the street. It was a proper community. It was a proper community. Bonfire night, we had a bonfire, and it was like proper. People made toffee apples. It was a really nice environment. But we were looking after a baby, me and my sister, and we were sitting on one of the. It was all brick around there. There's no greenery. We were sitting on a wall, and then I was looking to the right. My sister was looking, and the baby fell over and smashed.
Right.
I don't think we fractured his skull, but we just picked it.
It's an old Harehill tradition.
It's a tradition in
Harehills.
Babies dropping on the floor, smashing the skulls. We dusted him down, and he seemed okay, and we handed it. We didn't tell anybody, but so hopefully he was okay. Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah.
So the police came to pick up the kids, and that's when it kicked off, did it?
That was the beginning of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Now the footage I saw, and it was quite interesting because it was the following day. It was a really hot day, and they were interviewing people. And I'm not joking. It could have been, could have been Istanbul or Pakistan or somewhere like that, because it was red hot, and everybody they were talking to was brown. And the rioters were looked to me to be mainly Indians, Pakistanis. I think
they would look like that, but the Roma, who come from Romania, and not Romanian, the Roma.
Yeah.
Roma are gypsies that originated in the Punjab in India.
Ah, right, okay.
So that's why Romanians have dark skin.
Yeah. Although I would say they look like Indians to me, or Pakistanis.
Well, there was Pakistanis there, because the video I saw when they were burning stuff, they were all chanting Allahu Akbar.
Yeah, yeah.
And Romanians are Christian.
Now, the interesting thing about this is, for me, having grown up in Harehills, when I was a kid in Harehills, the community was very similar. I would say that 50 to 60% of the population there were Indian or there were a lot of Caribbean, West Indians there. My dad is Indian, or was Indian, but he was from the West Indies, West Indian. So a lot of the kids I went to school were Indians, Pakistanis. My class photographs from then, I would say 50% of the class is dark brown, whatever. So I don't think the community has changed that much. But when I was there, they were peaceful. They were passive. It was a community environment, like I say, even though there were multiple different racial families on our street, it was a really harmonious and nice place. It was tough, because obviously people didn't have money. So yeah, you could get mugged and all that sort of stuff, and there was violence, of course there was. But there were never any scenes like that when I was young, and I lived there till I was about 11 in Harehills. We moved when I was about 11.
Yeah. But don't forget, we had all the riots in 1980.
Yes, that was after I'd left at that point. So what's interesting here is, and I know we've talked about, Calvin Robinson says send all the Pakistani Muslims home. I think that's what he said. I can't remember now. So, was it send all the Pakistani Muslims or all the Pakistanis home? I can't remember. So I wouldn't say that population there has changed dramatically from when I was a young boy there. But their approach to society certainly has changed, because that behaviour there, which seemed unwarranted to me, unnecessary, I don't think that would have happened in the 60s or 70s when I was in Harehills in Leeds.
It might not have happened in the 60s and 70s, but it happened in the 80s.
Yes.
Those incidents can happen in any city. It just takes the right thing to happen. Riots are also connected to weather. The warmer the weather, the more likely it is to be a riot.
Yeah.
Antisocial behaviour is connected to weather and crime. When I used to work with the police, there was always a joke that it was going to be an easy night tonight, PC Rain's out. And the first time I went, well, who's PC Rain? He must be like a tough nut or something. No, the rain, we call him PC Rain because it's raining. So
and everybody calms down when it's... Yeah.
Most of the scrotes stay in because it's raining. So you get less antisocial behaviour. So when it's hot weather, you get more people out and more tempers afraid as well. It took everyone by surprise. And
is it a manifest? I suppose my question is, because probably some of our viewers and some people who maybe share some of our thoughts about other things may be thinking, oh, this is a manifestation, this is a result of letting all the Muslim immigration into the country or whatever, and this is what happens as a result of this. You get these communities and they're they're anti-society, anti-police, anti-UK. Is this what happens? But then what I'm saying is the community was like that when I lived there 50 years ago. So is it that, or is it something else that's happening here?
It's a bit of everything. So the British, the English, before mass immigration, we don't do riots. Hardly ever been riots in the UK. The riots in my lifetime have always been ethnic minority riots. Apart from Salford, when we had the Manchester riots, Salfords were mainly white kids, and that was all to do with criminality. They were robbing shops and stuff. I think part of this is mass immigration, tribalism, being sectioned off into different tribes, But also, there's also a feeling now across the UK that if anything happens to you as a Roma, as a Muslim, as a Jew, as this, it's because of that. So I heard a dad talking, and I heard some other people talking, and they were basically saying it's because we're Roma. We're being picked on because we're Roma. And the Roma have been picked on all throughout Europe. You know, they're persecuted in Romania, and they're persecuted many places, mainly because of criminals. And that's a lot of their culture. It is criminality.
Any Romans listening, please don't.
Yeah,
you know,
beggings, thefts. Same with the Irish travelling community in the UK. Their culture is around criminality. That's why Irish travellers are the number one locked up people in the UK.
Are they?
Compared to percentage of the population.
Really?
It's not young black men being locked up most. It's white travellers being locked up the most because they're involved in criminality more.
Percentage-wise, you mean?
Percentage-wise of them in the population. Yeah. So that's why this kicked off, basically. It's not because they confiscated the kids, it's because they took the kids because they were Roma. And the rest of the community went, we believe that, because we're picked on because we're Muslims, we're picked on because we're this, we're picked on because of that. And it's that sectarianism splitting up, and even the politicians there are sectarian politicians. There's a Green councillor for that area who got elected under the...
And he was on the street, to be fair to him, he was a little Muslim bloke, I think.
Yeah.
And he was trying to stop it, not very effectively.
No, but he was. And he was actively trying to stop it. He wasn't just saying, oh, please put that down. He was grabbing stuff off people. So well done him for that. But then when you hear him talk afterwards, he's basically saying, well, this is because we're treated as an institutional racism and da-da-da-da. So he comes out with all the same bollocks.
Yeah.
But he was actually trying to take pallets off people and tell them stop burning down your own community. And that's what happens in these ghettos, is people feel victimised. And they partly are victimised, but they bring a lot of that upon themselves through their culture of feeling victimised. They don't think they should live by UK standards or UK rules. It's okay to leave 5 children in a house by themselves all day. We did that in Romania. It was never a problem. A couple of kids fell off balconies, but you know, kids bounced. They're okay. They never died. One was crippled, but didn't die. But in this country, you fracture a kid's skull and social services are involved. Can you imagine what would happen if social services didn't get involved and next day that kid's dead?
Yeah.
The same community would then be shouting, oh, you don't care if Roma children die. You didn't do your job. The next day, social services gave back all 5 kids.
Oh, really?
The next day.
Because of the pressure.
Yep.
I suppose two questions spring to mind on that one. One is what do you think the general public watching that article are thinking when they see that happening? And the second thing is, what's the answer to curing or fixing that?
The general public are looking at that going, here we go. I was amazed that didn't spread to other cities, because normally when there's a riot, it spreads to other cities. Other people use it as an excuse to riot and loot, and that didn't happen. There was demonstrations and problems for a couple of nights there afterwards, but there was never riots again as far as I know. So I think people are looking at going, welcome to 21st century UK, where we have pockets of parts of the world who riot, who don't want to live by our rules, who are not like us, who do not treat the community, the police, even their own children the way we treat our children. They're different to us. They're not English, they're not the same as us, they're different to us. And they want to be different from us because they actively act different. So that's what some people are looking at. What's the answer? There is no short-term answers. To address this, and we're going to have to address it at some point, this is generational. We need generational projects for this. The first thing will be deportations. We say to people, again, especially the Roma community. Roma community add nothing to the benefit of the UK. Certain countries of community add nothing when they come here. Certain communities do.
I mean, we're back to the Calvin Robinson argument, aren't we? You know, send all Pakistani Muslims home.
Yeah.
It's the same. You're arguing it's the same for the Romas.
Yeah.
If they're not born here and they're not adding any value
Yeah.
and they're actually adding detrimentally to
Yeah.
the community, they should be sent home.
Yeah, absolutely. So that'd be a start, and then we've got a huge problem of integration and assimilation, and we've never done this in the 70 years we've had this experiment with immigration from around the world. At no point have we ever been serious about integration and assimilation, and it has to start at some point. And how do we do it? How do we start it? For this podcast, I've got no idea. I'd have to give it months and years thinking about this, but it would have to revolve around the nation state. It has to come from, we all live on this island and we all need to be one people. Doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter your religion, your skin colour. We all live on this island, and this is what this island is for, and this is what we believe in, and people need to come together and start embracing that. How we get to that, absolutely no idea.
And I think I agree with you. And it's depressing to hear you don't think there's an easy solution. What I would say is, when I lived in Harehills, I think that nation state concept existed. I think the people there were proud to be British, proud to be in England, living in England. My dad was from the West Indies, and obviously it's a British colony as well. But a lot of the Pakistani kids I knew as well, the true Indians, if you like, they were happy to be part of the UK. They're happy to be English, wanting to learn about English things and be part of that community. And I don't think I ever saw anybody. I went to Harehills Primary School. I don't think I saw anybody kneeling on a mat doing a prayer at any point in the time I was there. And we had proper assemblies. We said the Lord's Prayer. We all went to Sunday school. We were assimilated. I'm saying we were. I was born that. I've always thought myself as English and British, but the community was integrated then. I think that's the difference, because I don't think the number of brown people in Harehills has particularly changed from when I was a kid.
I would imagine it has across the country. So I would imagine it has. I think, just thinking about it now as you were speaking, because I wasn't listening to you, I was thinking.
Yeah, thanks.
It may have been better then, because many of those people came out of the British Empire, and there still was a British Empire.
Yes.
So people who came from the Caribbean, it was still British territory.
Yeah.
People who came out of India and Pakistan,
it was still remnants.
It'd only been independent for 10 years.
Yeah, true.
So these people were part of the British Empire, felt British.
Probably had a British education.
And knew they belonged to the British Empire, where several generations later, independence, and we're coming here now because we're coming here not because of the love of the motherland. We're coming here, and they came here not for the love of the motherland. Your father didn't come here because he came here as an economic migrant. He wanted a better life. My dad came from Southern Ireland here as an economic migrant. He didn't come because he loved England, but because they still remembered the empire and it was still family.
My dad did love England very much.
No, I'm sure he did, but he didn't come here because he loved England.
Part of the reason he came over was for that. Yeah. He wasn't necessarily. He didn't actually come over originally for work. He came over to study, but he loved England and everything about England.
No.
And I think a lot of people from
and that's the point I'm trying to make is they still felt part of the British family because we're part of the empire. Several generations later, after independence and stuff like that, it's then like, well, I've got no connection.
No, I think you're making a really good point. The Pakistani Muslims that come over and the Indians that come over, they don't see themselves as part of empire anymore or part of the British. They're now, and
so they shouldn't.
No, they're totally disassociated with that. But they haven't. That's maybe what bound us together in Harehills in the 60s and 70s. That we felt, my parents, the first generation, I was second generation, the first generation, did feel part of the empire, didn't they?
You go to houses in the Caribbean, especially of older people, portrait of the Queen.
Yeah. Yeah, thank God they haven't got the king up there.
Yeah, but that's how much they felt connected to the British Empire and the monarchy, because the monarchy is obviously the monarch of many of these countries.
So how do you bring that feeling back, Nick? What's your plan? Now you've discovered the reason. We're not on pause, by the way.
It's just, I'm thinking.
Nick's thinking.
That worked then, it won't work now. Because even British people now
I'm proud of Britain.
And not proud of Britain and don't have that same connection to the monarchy and stuff like that. It would have to be a long, hard slog of creating a nation that wants to be a nation, and believing in ourselves, celebrating ourselves, celebrating our history. If you don't know your history, how do you know where you're going to? You have to know where you've come from. So we need to celebrate our history. We need to have a lot more. Every bank holiday we have in this country should be renamed. It should be St. George's Day. It should be Churchill's birthday bank holiday instead of spring bank holiday and this bank. No. Rename them to important things in our history. And we need to start having more celebrations at school. Every public office in the country should have a picture of the monarch and the flag outside. And that's a start. By itself it'll do nothing, but that's a start. If we do keep the BBC, then the BBC, its agenda needs to change. Its agenda should be the British Broadcasting Company. It should be about promoting projects and doing work and having stories and documentaries that promote the national interest.
Yeah.
And it should be concentrating on that. Using some populist shows as well. Not just a documentary channel, but that should be its aim all the time.
It used to be like that.
It used to be like that. But
remember when the Generation Game used to be on and things like that? That was a time when I think we embraced Britishness, didn't we?
We did, and they were...
Walk and White Show,
yeah.
Generation Game.
And to be fair, they've still got those sort of shows now with Strictly Come Dancing and stuff like that. They're still family shows, but they need to do a lot more about promoting Britishness and being a nation and being proud of the nation. And
I think the thing that makes that happen is somebody coming into power like Trump will do in America, where that's what he's all about. He's all about America, make America great again. He's all about the nation state, isn't he? But we don't have any politicians at the moment who are promoting that.
Yeah. I'll give you two examples of the BBC. You've heard of the comedian Dara O'Brien.
Yes, I can't stand him.
Him? He's Irish.
He's too woke.
He's from Southern Ireland.
Yes.
What is a foreigner doing over here, working for the BBC, presenting programmes? The other one who was in Father Ted now does a talk show. I forgot his name now. No, not him. He had a small part in Father Ted. He's gay. He's quite flamboyant.
Graham Norton.
Again, from Southern Ireland. What's he doing working for the BBC over here as a foreigner?
Yeah, that's true actually.
So they're the changes the BBC need to make.
Yeah.
Because we're promoting people who are not even British or English. They may say, I've got a British passport now. Yeah, you may have a British passport, but you're not British, you're Irish.
Yeah.
You're always talking about you're Irish. So those little changes can mean a lot. We need to start promoting the country and ourselves first. And I use those two examples because they're white people. I didn't want to use an example where someone's black or brown because it's like that's easy to dismiss. I'm talking about my relatives because my dad was from Southern Ireland.
Yeah.
So that's why I want to use them as an example.
Very good. Right, I'm just going to read out a little quote here now. Women and girls treated like a piece of meat. Now, this is not a testimony from somebody who knew you when you...
Do you know what? I saw that coming a mile away. I saw that coming a mile away.
I only just thought of it as I was reading it just now. So yeah, so it's not a testimony from one of your former girlfriends, Nick. This is bizarrely a report onto one of your favourite subjects, Greater Manchester Police. So I have to confess, I knew you'd already read the article anyway, but I did see the article myself. I sent it to you on WhatsApp. But I don't actually know the details. But I think what I did text you after that was, given how they responded to Rochdale, I'm not surprised. Because actually that's really what happened to the girls in Rochdale, isn't it? Who were abused by the Pakistanis there. They were treated like a piece of meat by these perpetrators. So What's it about?
So this is the Baird report. So 3 years ago, there was a lady called Zana. I forgot her other name.
I think you've interviewed her, haven't you?
I'm about to say I interviewed her on my channel about a year ago. Yeah. So 3 years ago, when I didn't know about this story, she accused the police that she was raped in Salford police station, and doesn't know who, but was claimed she was raped by an officer. Went to the police, put in reports, spoke to Andy Burnham, got nowhere. Clever lady. She then put a case together herself. She then started requesting all the information you can request under Freedom of Information, and she pieced everything together. And it was damning. And there was something like 2 hours, because every police station has CCTV in it that's filmed constantly. And she was filmed for something like 18 hours in the police station while she sat there. Apart from 2 hours.
Mysteriously missing.
Missing.
Yeah.
She had boxer shorts on. They were taken off her when she left. If they had any DNA evidence on it.
Oh, like semen.
Yeah. They're missing.
Why was she wearing boxer shorts?
The police stripped her naked.
Oh, right, I see. Right.
And then give her
a t-shirt and a boxer shorts.
And these are special things that can't be ripped to make a rope to hang yourself.
Right.
So they're very flimsy.
Yeah.
But she had the boxer shorts on. Again, all this is on camera. She's got all the CCTV apart from 2 hours missing. And yeah, they've lost that evidence as well. She's got the report from when she went to St Mary's Hospital Rape Centre.
Immediately after the event.
Yeah. And they said it looked like there was damage.
Yeah.
Down below, anal tears and vaginal tears and bruising. So that doesn't necessarily mean you've been raped. That just means you've had heavy sex. So, but all these things are adding up. So long story short, she got nowhere for 2 years, and then Sky News said, we'd like to do a piece on this. We've seen it on Twitter. They did a 1 hour interview with her. The next day, everything changes. Andy Burnham's involved. The police have said, we'll do an investigation.
Andy Burnham must have known about it before.
She wrote to Andy Burnham several times. Has letters off Andy Burnham's office saying we'll look into it, or there's nothing we can do.
He's a slime ball, isn't he?
He just doesn't want. He just want to get involved in anything in case it backfires. So she got press attention, which changed everything. Then lots of other women came out the woodwork. I interviewed another woman that's on my channel. She claimed she was date raped in a hotel in the city centre, reported it to the police. The police phoned her up and said, we've spoken to him now. He seems like a very nice man. We don't think he could rape you. He seems like a very nice man. She claims he had to manhandle her up the stairs because she was drugged, and the police took that long to go to the hotel. After 4 weeks, all the CCTV in the hotel is recorded over, so they couldn't even get any footage. So that's her story. And there's lots of another woman went to the police to claim it was a closed police station. She kept ringing the bell. I can't remember all this story now, but that's what I think happened. To claim domestic violence, or she'd been raped by a partner or something. Obviously upset, bit abusive. So they arrest her and strip search her and lock her in a cell. She went there to claim domestic violence, or she'd been raped. I forgot which one it is now. And she ends up being...
They arrested her and strip searched her?
And leave her in a cell naked and strip searched her. So all these things came out. So then Andy Burnham had no choice then but to initiate a review of the Greater Manchester Police.
He's in charge of Greater Manchester Police?
Yes, he is. He's the Police Crime Commissioner, legally responsible for the police.
Oh, so he was holding his hands and said, I don't know.
I don't know about this. So politicians then want a report. Looks like I'm doing something. So he got a Labour peer from the House of Lords to do a review of Greater Manchester Police. So a Labour mayor asks a Labour peer to do a review that could backfire on the Labour Party.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is a corrupt report. You know, she's got some good credentials, this woman.
This is bad.
Yeah. But straight away, there's a conflict of interest there. They're all connected.
But even though there is that conflict, she actually reported that these things about these abuses.
But if there is a conspiracy, what hasn't she reported? What connections did Andy Burnham know that she's not reported? I'm not saying this, but
it stinks.
When you have these reports, the last thing you want is to be able to say, I don't trust that because of this.
Yeah.
It has, not only does it have to be fair, it has to be seen to be fair.
It should have been a Conservative peer, shouldn't it? Really?
Yeah, or just someone independent.
Or somebody independent.
Just someone, not a Labour peer. So this report should have got released beginning of the year. But there was something called the mayor election coming up. And we don't want to embarrass the mayor, so it got delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed. It just
never stops, Nick, does it?
And it got released last week. And then it all came out, all these stories and examples came out. And it's a damning report into Greater Manchester Police, who I thought had improved, and they haven't improved. Now, the only consolation really for Greater Manchester Police is the report goes into how they treat men. They treat men just as badly.
Oh, really?
Manchester Evening News did a report on the same day about the male cases. Stripped naked, abused. So
yeah, but men are more able to protect themselves.
Yes, they are. But what I don't want people to think is Greater Manchester Police were picking on women because they were women.
Right, they were just...
Greater Manchester Police are treating everybody appalling. Greater Manchester Police are likely to break the law regardless of your sex. They don't care about your sex. There's too many criminals, there's too incompetent, they don't care, they're badly trained, there's no oversight, there's no management, there's no responsibility. No one's going to get fired over this report.
No.
And it is a huge, huge scandal. Who was in charge of Greater Manchester Police? Andy Burnham for 7 years. Who was in charge before him? Tony Lloyd, Labour politician for 2 years. The last 9 years, Labour senior politicians have been in charge of Greater Manchester Police, and this is the result. It's absolutely shocking.
Scandalous. But, they just never stop, do they? It's like you say, the Labour peer, then delaying the reports after. I mean, they're just so corrupt, aren't they? These behaviours of these people.
Where's the footage for that woman? Where is the footage? How can the reason why we have body cams on officers and CCTV...
It's to protect us, the public.
No, it's to protect police officers.
Yeah, and us.
No, it's purely to protect police officers, because police officers have always been accused of doing stuff. So we spent millions investing in CCTV to protect police officers so they can never be accused of something falsely.
But then...
And so you've got to ask yourself, when the footage goes missing, who is that benefiting? And let's say it's an accident. Well, I want to talk about the head of IT at GMP. I want him sacking.
Yeah.
How have you got such an incompetent system that hours can go missing and get deleted? That's your job. You're sacked. So regardless of what's gone on, heads must roll if we're ever going to get confidence in the police.
Yeah, but accountability seems to have disappeared, though, doesn't it?
In the public sector, completely.
I think it's disappeared in lots of places. Yeah. There seems to be an attitude now where it's like the head of the Secret Service in America. She still hasn't resigned. I believe that's the case. She still hasn't resigned.
She won't.
Which is scandalous.
She has to be sacked. She'll be sacked if Trump wins.
Yeah. But people aren't held accountable anymore, are they?
Not in the public sector.
What's the
especially
result? What's going to be the result of this report?
We don't know. Oh, they would have. The last page will be about recommendations, and GMP have said we'll implement all the recommendations. But the recommendations is what you thought they were already doing anyway.
Yeah. So, recommendations start doing it properly. Yeah.
That's their recommendations.
Yeah, but no recommendations to sack the people who are in charge.
That's the only way we're going to change these organisations, is when we give them skin in the game. If we sack, I'm not talking about sacking a police officer or a PCSO. They're following orders. I'm talking about sacking a chief constable, a chief superintendent, a deputy chief constable, maybe even a chief constable. Sack people that level. That changes the whole atmosphere, the whole environment, and people start going, we need to do a better job because my job and my pension's on the line now.
I mean, I think people have a very low opinion of the police at the moment, just generally.
And rightly so. All came out at COVID, didn't it?
And I did, but I forgot to tell you, I may have mentioned it before, I had a low opinion of the police, but then I was speeding in Yorkshire, and an undercover police car pulled me over. I didn't realise behind me, but he let me off, which I was really pleased about.
That's because you're brown.
Oh, do you think so?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true actually.
Yeah,
his face changed when the window went down.
What's your name? Khan. Yeah. I don't even want to have a conversation with you, Mr. Khan. I'm on my way.
I think that's very cynical.
Yeah,
I like to think it's because I was polite. I was charming with him. I apologised, and I think he just thought.
No, but again,
he's a good man.
Even if you were all those things, it shouldn't make any difference. The police officers should enforce the law without fear or favour.
Yeah, but it was extenuating circumstances. There was somebody deliberately driving slowly in front of me. I think he was empathising with me because he knew I had the moral high ground.
Well, if there was reasons for what you did, that's fair enough. But I don't want police officers letting people off because they're polite or whatever. Enforce the law. Your job, their job isn't to make those decisions.
Yeah, but how many times does he pull somebody over and they're sarcastic? What do you want? What's the problem? Blah blah blah. But this time,
being nice always gets you further than not being nice.
Yeah, there are times to be nice, times to be nasty. That was a time to be nice.
I had a computer.
What was hilarious though, my wife, who's the most law-abiding person you would ever, she said, "Should I say that you're taking me to the hospital?" I was like, "No." I said,
should have said, "Yeah, we'll say you're pregnant." Cut that out in case your wife ever sees it.
So I was like, what are you talking about? Which is bizarre, really. So
I can't believe it's sunny. We've got to do the blinds.
Okay, so we're moving from GMP police. Some good news.
Yeah.
Roger Hallam, do you know who he is?
Yes, Just Stop Oil nutcase.
Yes, he's one of the leaders of Just Stop Oil, the founders.
He was also one of the founders of Extinction Rebellion.
He's a ponce anyway.
Yeah.
He's been jailed for 5 years.
Yep. Don't celebrate too early.
Why? They're going to appeal.
He's definitely going to appeal, and the odds are he'll get a more sympathetic judge. And I can't see 5 years sticking. I can.
Really?
I can't see. Depending on what judge he gets. So. But I thought the sentences were excellent.
Yes, quite right. I mean, stopping the M25 it's ridiculous. You can't do that. You can't do that. That's one of the main business arteries in the country. I think what was interesting with a couple of the names of the people who jailed with him, Lucia Whitaker de Abreu and Cressida Gethin.
They all from Harehills.
Yeah. I bet they're not from Harehills, and it kind of gives you insight into the kind of people who are involved in this grubby organisation.
Middle class, posh kids who are rebelling in a safe, socially acceptable way.
Well, that's why I've said that the question here is this the end of Just Stop Oil? And the reason I'm saying that is because I think the people who've been doing it think it is a safe thing to do and they'll be fine. I think this says it's not safe to do, and if you do this stuff, you're going to end up in jail.
Yeah.
And I can tell you right now, Lucia Whitaker de Abreu doesn't want to go to jail.
Yeah.
So I just wonder if some of these poncy middle-class people who've enjoyed oil all their lives, they're often 70-year-old retired dentists, aren't they, who've had a fantastic life enjoying the products of oil, and then they've suddenly decided we're not going to let young people enjoy this stuff anymore, so we're going to protest. But I don't think they think they were going to go to jail, and they're actually going to go to jail now.
They are. We'll talk about the appeal when it happens. There's a risk here now. The risk is, Just Stop Oil collapses, a splinter group breaks away. We've tried peaceful protest. Didn't work.
You mentioned this before.
Didn't work, did it? You've sent us to jail. Peaceful protest doesn't work. We try to do it the law-abiding way, and you send us to jail.
Yeah.
We're
going to start blowing up oil refineries now.
And we're going to start more direct action and more violence and stuff. That's the risk. The young girl, the 22-year-old girl who got 4 years.
Lucia Whitaker de Abreu.
That might be her. Her mum gave a statement yesterday.
Oh, really?
It's on live. Very proud of her, blah, 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 and this is disgraceful. And do you know what? Now she's got 4 years. She can't attend her brother's wedding next year now. How disgraceful is that? And
They're
I'm
insane, aren't they?
And I'm like, I've got any idea what Just Stop Oil have stopped people attending?
Yeah.
Cancer treatment, births of babies,
Yeah.
people on the deathbed, and she can't attend her brother's wedding next year. These people just don't live in the real world.
Yeah,
and she was exactly what you thought her mum would be like.
Yeah, yeah. They're just repulsive, these people. Absolutely horrific. But it's kind of... But also, she'll have a criminal record as well. She'll find it difficult to get jobs, all that sort of stuff as well, which is great. So that's not just attending a brother's wedding.
The days of criminal record stopping you to get a job now have been dramatically reduced.
Yeah, but it doesn't help when it's on your CV.
It won't be on your CV. And yeah, it doesn't hamper you like most people, like most law-abiding people think it'll hamper you. It doesn't hamper you anymore like that.
I think there've been a number of memes around this, but one of the more hilarious ones is sort of people saying he'll probably be needing oil-based lubricants in prison.
I saw that today for the first time and it made me laugh. It said something like Hallam won't be protesting petroleum anymore once he gets out of jail because he'll have an affinity with petroleum jelly. I thought it was quite funny. But
I hope to God it's not overturned, because this is exactly what they deserve, and this is what hopefully will shut them up. There's a meme that you may have seen on a GIF, and it's from two comedians who were in Peep Show. I can't remember what the names are.
I know which one you're going to talk about, yeah.
And it's from their sitcom or their show they had, and it's where they were playing Nazis, and in the middle of this, what they're doing, one of the Nazi captains turns around and says, "Are we the baddies?"
Yeah.
And I think it's really hilarious that, and I'm just wondering now with what's going on, certainly in America with what we've seen with Biden and the hiding and all the behaviour, and also the reaction to things like Trump and some of the really horrible things that people have said. I'm just wondering, do you think some of the Democrats and the progressives are actually sitting in their rooms at night and saying, "Are we the baddies here?" Because they are, aren't they?
Not a chance in hell.
There must be one or two.
To be able to do that requires such deep thought and self-evaluation and self-assessment that 99.99% of people haven't got and could never do. To be able to analyse your choices, why you made those decisions, what you supported, and then come to the conclusion that not only was you wrong, but you're one of the baddies and you're evil, and humans are not designed to do that at all. Hence, let's connect it to the trans issue. And we've talked about this before. Why do you think parents of trans kids, mentally ill kids, say, "Oh, they're trans"? Because if they have to admit that their child's mentally ill,
as a result of their actions,
yeah, or just neglect, or not being a good mother, not spotting it earlier, or could it be my fault that they're mentally ill? Rather than doing all that, it's easy to say, "No, I was a good parent, they're trans.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to be a better parent now because I'm going to embrace their transition."
Yeah.
That not many people can get their head around realising that they did wrong.
I think there must be some, we're going back across the pond again, I think there must be some Democrats who, after the Trump assassination attempt, have looked deep into their minds and said, "There's something wrong here."
I also think that Trump is not the right candidate on the other side for that to happen. Trump's easy not to like.
Yes, he is.
Trump is easy to dislike and hate.
Yeah.
So
he's not as measured as, say, something like Ron DeSantis, who more people might think actually he's talking some sense.
Yeah. Or not only he's not talking sense, but he's polite and he doesn't grab women by the pussy.
Yeah.
And he's not abusive and he's not. And we shouldn't be killing. I know I disagree with Ron DeSantis and I don't like any of his policies. They'll be saying, we shouldn't kill people like that.
Yeah.
That's easier than someone you despise.
Yes, yeah. There was also something, I sent you a picture of it, but I think you'd already seen it, and it's a meme showing a Netflix movie version of the Trump assassination. But the
was
hilarious
funny.
thing is, it's a picture of somebody with a bandage on his ear, blonde hair, but it's a black man.
Yeah.
Which of course,
70-year-old black man, basically.
The joke is, of course, if Netflix makes any programs, they always put black people in, regardless, no matter what. But the idea of actually having a black man play Trump, I just thought was absolutely hilarious.
And then a week later, did you see the one with the same photo, but with a bandage on his ear? Someone updated that meme and then put a little bandage on his ear.
On whose ear?
The black guy's ear.
Oh, sorry, no, that was the one I saw. It had the bandage on the ear. Yeah, it was a blonde, and he had a bandage on his ear. It said,
right.
That was the one.
Sorry, it did.
Oh, there was another one before that with just a black guy playing
I think
Trump.
it was, yeah. I think I've seen two, yeah.
I saw something the other day. I was watching. It's called. What's it called now? It's an American guy, and it's called Uncommon Knowledge, and it's.
It's part of.
It's part of a
university.
Yes, in America, some sort of academic organisation in America.
Yeah, they usually do the interviews in Venice.
And they're really interesting. They're quite.
They're very good. Yeah,
they're quite in depth, and sometimes they hover around religion and stuff. But they were talking about.
He's like an English version of Peter Whittle of the New Culture Forum.
Yes, he is. He's like an English version, except it's slightly more. Maybe tempered. It's not as. It's kind of. It's like us now asking questions as opposed to giving opinions. I suppose. But they were talking about Isaac Newton, who was a hero of mine. But phenomenal man, phenomenal brain. The things he came up with, just sitting in a room on his own as a mathematician, were just phenomenal. But what they were talking about was how they were talking about religion, but they were talking about how Isaac Newton's all his Principia, which is his main work, calculus, all the things he invented. That was Newton, who was highly religious, trying to formulate God's work mathematically, scientifically, or whatever. But he wasn't choosing science to show that God didn't exist. He was using science to formulate how God's great gifts work, basically. So he was saying gravity is a function of something that God, and this is how it works. Speed, acceleration is a function of how the physics that God has imbued on us, and this is how it works, basically. Then obviously, that was in the kind of 18th century. I think Newton was 1700s. 18th century. Then, of course, the 19th century saw Darwin. You're exactly where I'm heading here. Saw Darwin, and Darwin, again, there was science there, but his science actually started to precipitate a destruction of religion in terms of people started to question whether their beliefs and their behaviours were, and that again we believe precipitated the First World War, the Second World War, or whatever. I think the question I've got here for you, with this again, we're going back to Trump, and I apologise for keeping going back to Trump. When Trump was shot, people have started talking openly about divine intervention with Trump and God, and this is everybody praying for him and all that sorts of stuff. And I've talked about the fact that I regard myself as a Christian, even though I don't particularly believe in God, and I've been going to church and things like that. Is religion returning? And sorry, just to temper this, we also see the massive rise of Islam in the West now as well, coming along at the same time. So that, along with the things we're seeing around Trump and the response, is religion making a comeback now?
I would say yes.
Yeah, interesting.
I'm not saying it's Christianity, but religion is making a comeback, and I think it's because we need religion in our lives. The world's too complicated for us to make any sense of it unless we have guidance, and that guidance is usually religion. Christianity, the big mistake Christianity made was it started trying to be the religion for the individual, such as, oh, you can get married if you've been divorced, or we want to keep you in the church, so we'll make the church as pink and fluffy as possible to keep you in the church. And the more they did that, the more people went, the church office mean nothing. People go to church and want religion. for guidance, for rules. They may not always obey those rules, but they want rules. I've worked for decades with children. Children excel when they have rules and boundaries. They may not like those rules and boundaries, but once they realise there's rules and boundaries and they test you and know they can't be broken, they then realise they're safe where they are, and then they can explore other things and will do other things. But when they know there's no boundaries, well, it's limitless what they can do. So they explore everything. So that's what we need religion for, to contain us, constrain us, and to try to quell down some of the animalistic evil thoughts we have sometimes. You know, that's why one of the 10 Commandments is thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not covet your neighbour's ox, and all these things, because these were the things we knew was a problem within tribes, within communities. Islam is offering young men in the West what Christianity used to offer them. Structure, hierarchy, rules, something to belong to, something to be proud to belong to. Islam is it's a warrior religion, and Christianity has lost all that. Accelerated by technology, but then accelerated by the introduction of female priests, then accelerated with acceptance of LGBTQ rubbish, and you'd imagine if the
marriage.
You'd imagine if there was a devil, you think he's in charge of the Christian church, because he's killing it all over the more developed countries of the West. So it is coming back because people need it. People are lost, people are unhappy, people are depressed. 20% of women in the UK take antidepressants. Our lives, we've got more and more stuff, we've got more and more money, we've got less and less serious problems, and we're all more and more unhappy. And religion will be the way that we tick that box.
People are looking for something. I mean, I think you're right about Islam. Islam offers something to people, certainly young people. I don't, obviously, some of the tenets of Islam I find horrific. They're the way they are about treating women and things like that. But I understand why it's attractive. But I also think that the rise of Islam is generating an increased interest in religion on the non-Islamic side, if you like, the Judeo-Christian side, basically. I think that is seeing a revival. Not necessarily the churches, I don't think that's particularly it, but just people's general belief. I mean, there was a clip when Trump got shot, and it was a Mexican or Latino woman in America, and her kid said, "Mom, Trump's been shot," and she said, Trump's been shot. No, I need to light a candle for this. She said, "Is he okay?" She said, "He's not dead." She said, "I'm going to light a candle for him. I'm going to light a candle." And she went and ran, and it was a clip on the internet. I don't know if you saw it. And I thought, wow, she's she was younger than I am. I would say probably in her 50s or something, 40s or 50s. Went and lit a candle. I know the South Americans are more religious than sort of. But I thought, this is the way people are thinking now about Trump, the Trump shooting, about God looking after him, and then lighting a candle for him and all that sort of stuff. There was another scene I saw where Trump was in a takeaway, and the woman said, "Can I pray for you?" And Trump kind of gave her his hand, and she literally prayed for him across the counter. And you're starting to get a sense there is this. He's not particularly religious, Trump, is he? I don't think.
But America is more religious than the UK. Some churches in this country are doing really well. Some of the Black African churches, I forgot what they're called now.
Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah, and some of the ones
Christian Scientists.
The ones where they do a lot of singing and stuff.
Evangelists.
Yeah. So some of those churches in this country are packed out every Sunday. It's a Church of England that's dying and needs to be put out of its misery.
There's a few other things I want to talk about, and I was going to return to Gareth Southgate, as you know, who I despise, but I'll save him for next time. If we could just end on something that I saw the other day, which was Nigel Farage being interviewed by Jordan Peterson.
I watched it.
Did you watch that?
Yeah.
And what's absolutely hilarious, not hilarious, but I thought really quite striking, because it kind of, even now, in my supposedly awake moments, things still shock me, and I realise it's because of my conditioning. And Jordan Peterson said, or somebody, I can't remember what happened, but somebody said tonight, he was maybe recounting this. So he said, somebody asked me if I get into power what I'm going to do for the black community.
Yeah.
And he said, absolutely nothing. And when he said that, I was actually quite shocked. I was actually quite shocked because, of course, I've still got the remnants in my brainwashed mind of you know, you must do something for the black community. And then he went on to say, I don't care whether you're black, whether you're white.
Yeah.
I will do the best for you.
We've all got the same problems. We all want the same things.
Yeah, correct,
we all want good schools, safer streets. We all want better jobs.
Yeah.
There's nothing the black community want that the white community doesn't want. Those things don't exist.
Yeah, it's the same thing as saying trans rights are human rights. Trans people have got just the same rights as everybody else, basically. Yeah. But it was quite shocking. Very brave of him, I thought, to say it.
He copied me.
Oh, right.
I did it during the mayor's election. I was interviewed by Iranian TV.
Yeah.
It's based in London for expats of the Iranian community in the UK. And they interviewed me. So it's on my channel somewhere. And that's what they asked me.
What did they say? What was the question?
There's 62,000 Iranian expats living in Greater Manchester, potential voters. What are you going to do for the Iranian expat community? And I said, absolutely nothing. And then I just said what I said then. I said,
so what did you say? How did you qualify it?
I said, I'm going to improve all our problems. I said, I don't play this identity politics. I'm not going to do something for the black community, the Muslim community, this community, the Persian community. I said, I don't play those games. I'm going to do what needs to be done, because you send your kids to school. So we want better schools, don't we? Your wives and children go on the streets. You want safer streets, don't you?
Yeah.
And I just listed off what we're going to do. And he smiled when I was saying it, and afterwards he went, that was a great answer, that was a great answer.
So do you think Nigel Farage, I know Nigel Farage watches everything you do.
He knows me, I've been on his show, and I think, because his ratings started dropping, I think he started watching us.
I think he's been watching everything he's been, and he must have seen that interview, and as a result. So, you heard it here first, folks.
But it's nice to have a serious senior politician like that say those things.
Yeah.
And not be wimpy, and not saying, oh, I'm a big supporter of the black community, I'm going to, what does any of that mean? Who is the black community?
Yeah.
Lots of Africans can't stand Caribbeans. Lots of Caribbeans can't stand Eritreans.
But I think you're right. What it's doing is just reinforces identity politics. This obsession that the progressive have with putting people into boxes. You're black, you go in the black community. It's like Biden saying, when some bloke said, I vote Republican, he said, you're not black.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of... But, you know, if this black person, you need to go into a special community box and we'll give you some special treatment, you know. If you're a Mexican person, we'll put you in this special, you know. But you're right, everybody needs stuff, and they need certain fundamental things they need in life.
How are we going to get away from this sectarianism when all our politicians speak in sectarian language?
Yes.
How are we going to build everybody under one nation, under one monarch in one country, with one set of values, when the next minute we go, the black community, the Asian community?
Yeah.
You can't do two things at once.
Yeah.
And him saying that, the fact it shocked you was good, because it would have shocked other people. And then when he went on to explain himself, 99% of people are probably there going, oh yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, I'm glad he said that.
Yeah.
So he's raising this in other people's minds.
Is this a new phase for him now? I don't know when this interview happened.
Oh, it was just before he won his seat. He was fighting for the general election, so it's only like a month old.
Yeah. So for me, that's kind of a change in tone for him, really, because he avoided the race thing, didn't he, during the election to a great extent. But I think maybe he's now going to build on this, breaking apart sectarian politics as he progresses with his party.
Absolutely. I know there's ground to be won there. Immigration itself will get a life of its own.
It's already got it.
I know. Next 4 or 5 years. I mean, it hasn't got it to where it's going to get to.
Yeah.
It's going to be by far the number one issue in the next general election.
I've started, I don't know if since you and I started talking or whatever, but I've started noticing as I'm driving around Manchester now, and I'm saying this is a brown, but people must look at me and think the same thing. There's a lot of brown people and black people in Manchester.
But it's been a slow increase over decades and decades and decades. You're probably aware of it now because of the conversations we've had. I told you last time.
I've never really noticed before.
A third of people in Manchester who are living in Manchester at the moment, a third of them not even born in the UK.
Not even born in the UK. So how many people in Manchester are actually black or brown or non-white? Can I ask questions like that?
You can do. I think it's still under 50%.
Under 50%? Yeah. I would hope it's under 50%. I'd be surprised if it's anywhere near that. You think it might be near that?
Oh, I think it's getting
That's a lot.
Yeah. And that's not meaning the rest are white English, white British. White British people are a minority now in Manchester, Birmingham, London.
Really?
White British are under 50% of the population.
Wow.
That came out of the 2021 census.
Wow. I don't know why, and maybe now I'm going to be called a racist by our viewers, but it doesn't quite feel right to me, that. I don't know why.
It's mass migration. And for me, that isn't the real issue. You know, to a certain extent, and you're probably saying, we don't really see skin colour anymore. We haven't for a long time. But
well, I hadn't done. I'm starting to see it again. I hadn't done. I think I said to you before.
That's because everyone's banging on about it all the time.
10 years I started to see it again. I hadn't actually seen it at that point.
So mass migration is not a problem because of people's skin colour. It's to do with culture and it's to do with resources.
No, I know it's not a problem because of people's skin colour, but people notice it. I think people notice skin colour.
Oh, because it's obvious.
Yeah. It's a very tangible thing.
Yeah, if you're walking down the street and you see me and you didn't know me, you wouldn't know if might guess I'm white English. You wouldn't know if I'm Irish, Scottish, Belgium, German, but you see skin colour, and so that's obvious.
Well, there's no difference, is there, to seeing me driving my car and I'm thinking there's lots of Indian people in cars around me here, and I'm one of them. To watching the adverts on TV and every advert's got 26 black people in it.
Yeah.
You notice after a while, don't you?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how liberal or progressive or whatever, you start to notice after a while, don't you?
Yeah.
So, okay. Nick Buckley, MBE, white, clearly a white person. I wouldn't, if you were in the car next to me, I wouldn't notice that you were of foreign extraction.
Well, if you were in the car next to me, I'd make sure my door was locked.
Quite right. Did I tell you I came from Harehills?
That's why I'm locking it.
Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah, I'm gonna get a sticker on my car saying "Born in Harehills."
Keep back. Nobody will ever tailgate you again.
Keep your distance. Born in Harehills,
and then underneath, especially if you've got a baby in the car.
Yes,
because you don't like those stickers.
I hate those stickers.
So now you can threaten him. Harehill, we crack baby skulls in. We do.
Yeah, baby skull cracker specialist. Yeah, that's it.
We're going to have to edit all this out at the end. Did you enjoy that video? I think you did. Come on now, hit that bell, subscribe, comment. Let's build this channel. I need more followers. I need more subscribers. Be part of the journey. See you soon.